Okay, so now that we're done here, what we really want is to get all our data from our tweets topic, from the Twitter tweets topic, which is all this data right here. We want to get this into Elasticsearch. So we have to create our own consumer. Thankfully, it won't be too hard. So let's go ahead and use the Kafka basics from there. Source main Java tutorial 1, and we'll use consumer demo groups, for example. Now we're going to get all the code from here and cut it or copy and paste it into there. So we're going to create a new static class. So we'll call it public static Kafka consumer of string, and call it create consumer. And we're going to paste this entire code that we had from before. Now we just make sure that we connect indeed to the right Bootstrap server. Now for the group ID for this application, we will name it Kafka demo Elasticsearch. And it's just a random name I want to give to my application. The topic we're going to read is Twitter_tweets. And now let's look at the consumer configs. Bootstrap server is correct. The key deserializer and value deserializer is going to be a string deserializer, so we're happy with this. The group ID we set to Twitter tweets, to Kafka demo Elasticsearch. And finally, auto offset reset config is set to earliest, so we are going to read the data from the very beginning. Out of this, we get a consumer to which we pass the properties, and we will return here the consumer. Let's just make sure before that to subscribe the consumer. So consumer.subscribe arrays as list, and we'll just pass in the topic. So here we go. We have subscribed our topic and it is subscribe to the right topic. And we want to make even extremely good, and we'll just pass the topic as an argument. So string topic, and we'll just remove this so that we can parameterize and create consumers for many different topics if we wanted to. Now, here we go here. We are going to create our consumer. So Kafka consumer of string consumer equals new, create consumer, and we'll pass in the topic name Twitter_tweets. Okay. Now, as we've seen from before, we need to basically pull that consumer for new data. So if we go to consumer demo groups, we can do the while true loop, and that's going to be enough for now. So we'll do the while true loop, and we are going to say, okay, we are going to get records, and we're going to pull the records for 100 milliseconds. And then we're going to get consumer records out of it, and we can display the key, the value, and the partition. So here is basically where we insert data into Elasticsearch. Okay, so we need to get these records, and the value that interests us a lot is going to be record.value. Okay, and we need to insert this into Elasticsearch. Now it's pretty easy. What we need to do is look at this index response thingy and extract it. So we'll extract this and paste it right here. Now what we need to insert in our index request, which is also something we need to cut right here, is the fact that instead of using the JSON string from before, we don't need this one anymore. Okay, this was just for testing. Here now we are going to use the record.value. So we can say string, JSON string equals record.value. And this is basically our tweet. So to make it clearer, I'll just put it right here. Okay, so we create an index request to our index tweet, type tweets, and the source of the value is going to be the record value from the consumer, and the type is JSON indeed. And we get a response out of it from which we get the ID and log the ID. So here I'm just going to sleep for a little while every time I do this. So I'll say thread.sleep 1 second, just because I want to show you slowly what happens and I don't want to consume the entire topic just yet. I'll surround this with try catch to see how things work. Now at the end, we need to close the clients. So for now, we won't reach this because there's a while true. So I'll just close this, but we'll see how to get there eventually. Now, let's go ahead and run this code and see what happens. We run this code. And as you can see, we get a bunch of IDs coming back out of me every second, which is every tweet getting inserted into Kafka as we speak. So I'll go ahead and stop this and take a random ID from here, for example, this one. And I'm going to go ahead into my interactive console and look at this value. So get/Twitter/tweets and the ID I just copied. And now if we look at it, our entire tweet has been included into our little Elasticsearch cluster. So as you can see, the tweet is huge, but now it's kind of nice formatted. It is JSON document, and we can see that there is an ID string, the text of the tweet. We can find that there is a user who created that tweet. And so you can see the user has a lot of information as well. We can get some geolocation if possible. We can get some retweeting status. There's a lot of good information in there, to be honest. We can get a number of retweets, a number of quotes and replies. I mean, this is a huge data set right here that we have just extracted. And so this is quite nice. And so here, what we can realize is that, okay, now we insert records one at a time in Elasticsearch, and we introduce a delay of 1,000 milliseconds or 1 second. So the records will be inserted quite slowly. So it's just introduce a small delay. Obviously, you could remove that thread.sleep 1000 and it will go super quickly, but I wanted to just show you one at a time that the tweets do get inserted. Now, this is enough just to get started. As you'll see in the future lectures, we're going to optimize this code, make it much quicker, play with the offsets, commits, etc., etc. But that's a huge start. We have managed to basically insert data from Kafka into Elasticsearch using a consumer, and that's awesome. All right, I'll see you in the next lecture.